Hey, everybody, welcome to this workshop. We are going to be talking about personal development and get you a 30-day glow up at the same time. So, you know, brief on who I am, what I do, why I do it. Um, I'm Michelle Stubbs, a certified exercise physiologist and nutrition coach. I focus my work on um, working with others, mostly women, on simple, effective, and personal solutions for their health and wellness goals. Now, whether that's releasing excess body fat or weight, building muscle, working through or even treating chronic conditions, because we can have that conversation as me, the exercise physiologist. Um, my goal ultimately is to help people with bringing more joy into their lives with their health and wellness leading the way. I love working on what matters most with people and what makes the most sense for them at each step as they're going along and making progress. I also enjoy helping them figure out what may or may not be holding them back at what points. So, to answer the brief question, why would an exercise physiologist and nutrition coach talk specifically about personal development in general? That's why, because I fully believe that when we are seeking the best versions of ourselves, there's a lot that is internal that can hang us up, as much as there can be external factors that challenge us. So that is your why. Now let's get going. So, what is personal development? Of the variety of definitions that one could put to the phrase personal development, the best and briefest that I have seen and come to understand is that it is the act of enhancing one's well-being. And this is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, occupational. It's everything. Well-being is everything. And it's to achieve a personal transformation towards a more confident and self-assured version of themselves. This also answers the why of personal development. It's not just the what, the why. Going for our best version of us. It also implies that this is a journey and not specifically a destination. Now, when we think about traditional goal setting, we're always thinking about a destination, right? And one reason why we need something that's specific or measurable, so a goal, as it were, is because if we're not looking at something that is quantifiable, then how do we track progress? I want to challenge our thinking here just a moment for taking the quantifiable and applying quality to it as well. One of the things that I had wanted to do going through my graduate education, um, when initially I was being expected to perform a thesis defense, was taking a look at what was more qualifiable as opposed to quantifiable with respect to behavior change. Now, I was told that the institution where I was doing my graduate work was not well equipped to do outside of quantitative based research. So, data collection when it came to numbers and research when it came to, um, well, numbers. So, I was very fortunate while going through my master's program, um, that in that time they developed um, another direction with my specific degree and presented an internship option. I was actually the very first graduate through the internship option. Um, and that allowed me to work directly with people um, in a health and wellness setting, very specifically the fitness center at a senior living establishment, an assisted living establishment, and working with people on exercise and nutrition based goals. Our internal environment, we can think of quantitative as the numbers that might appear on our blood work or performance-based goals, such as how many push-ups we can do. But there's a lot of qualitative about it, very subjective experience in living. So personal development is as much and even more so about our internal environment as it is our external and what we're producing or creating. So I want to encourage us to come at this with an open mind, an open heart, and a degree of excitement about what it is that we'll be able to create. So right now, we're going to show up to glow up. I love that phrase, by the way. Show up to glow up. We're going to focus here on what matters most. So, the most important things to keep in consideration when you're creating your personal development checklist, the list of things you might want to focus on as part of first personal development. We're going to have a look at the nuance, some of those nuances within those considerations and how it is that they are personal for each of us. And then I'm going to give you a strategy for working your next 30 days because habits are built in 21 days. It takes 21 days of consistency to build habits. That's 21 days of doing something every single day. And while there are things that we don't need to do every day to make progress, it does take concerted effort and a bit of planning to firm things up so that we can make the kind of progress that we want. And here's the thing. We probably won't hit certain milestones towards our goals within a 30-day period, but we definitely won't if we don't take action consistently. So you'd be amazed what you can accomplish in a 30-day period. And while it takes 21 days to build habits, 30 days is the approximate length of a month. So it can be even easier to figure out if we've been consistent over the course of a month. So what might your glow up consist of in a 30-day window? I'm going to get you right now my personal list of non-negotiables. And these are things that, yes, I'm still working on because, again, this is a journey and not a destination. So there's always room to improve on this list. And the most important thing to me is to do something in each of these areas, not to aim for perfection. So, first would be a consistent morning routine. At minimum, among the very first things that I'm going to do when I wake up is move and hydrate myself. And by move, I don't necessarily mean get out and go for a walk. I mean, don't hit the snooze button, get up, move around, wake myself up. And that's again, at minimum, movement and hydration. Next is a bit of me time. If I'm helping my boyfriend set himself up for success on the day because he drives an hour to get to work, then I will focus on that. So that might be um, me getting a lunch packed real quick for him, or um, me taking a look through his selection of shirts and pants and seeing what I think he should wear on a given day. Um, but the next thing I do, so this is after he's left for work, is me time. I'm going to take at least a few minutes. I might journal. I might grab a tea or coffee and sit and reflect on the day ahead. I might practice a bit of gratitude. I might meditate. I might just even simply observe how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. And after doing that, I'm going to plan the day ahead, the action steps that I'm going to take. And I'll get into action steps themselves specifically a little bit later. But what you need to know is that action steps don't necessarily mean a to-do list. My next non-negotiable is getting ready, even though I might be staying at home. Now, for my work, I do a bit of creative work for my clients. I also run numbers. I also do administrative work because I am doing my own bookkeeping. I am doing my own processing of business related stuff. So the creative stuff, I may very well try to get out and go to somewhere else just to get out of what my normal environment is, regardless of whether I am working at home or I'm selecting somewhere else to work. I'm sure you've probably heard of the concept of dress for success, right? I might change outfits two, three, or four times a day, depending on what I want to make sure I'm focusing on. Because if I am, it's going to sound probably a little funny, but if I am dressed certain ways, I'm probably feeling more relaxed or more energized mentally to get certain things done. So that's something that I take into consideration, getting ready even if I'm staying at home. Because if I just roll out of bed and dive into the day, for me, I'm not generally in a position where I'm feeling my most on point mentally. So I'll brush my hair. I will wash my face. I will, um, I'm not gonna come up here and wear, a business top for a meeting and then pajama pants. I'm wearing the full business outfit because this is me mentally bringing myself around to an image I've got in my mind of how I'm going to approach a situation. A third non-negotiable for me is daily physical activity. Now, you're probably thinking, exercise professional. Of course, she's going to go get her workout in. But honestly, it could be a workout, it could be a walk, it could be just simply adding more neat to my day. And neat, that's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So the focus on simply getting up and moving around. Good example of that, I work with my clients in an online capacity. I don't do in-person training anymore. I may opt to at some point, but even as an in-person trainer, I wasn't doing a workout with my client. And I certainly wasn't going to be doing a workout with every client I worked with in a given day. That would be crazy. That'd be over exercising. So at this point, with working solely online, I use timers on my work. I'll work for a select period of time, and then I will get up and I move around. And that timer reminds me I need to get up and move around. This is me getting additional steps in on the day instead of sitting down all day. And even if you're just including a bit extra neat, it helps break up monotony. It helps me reach a step count goal that I've got for the day. It allows me an opportunity to transition from one task to another as well. So it's not always about getting in a workout. Sometimes it's as simple as just simply getting more movement in. The next is skincare and hair care. Now, I'm sure one of the first things you think about is this is an investment of money, and it can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but it can be. What you want to find out for yourself is what do my skin and hair need in terms of direct care on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. It's probably going to be a little bit of a time investment as well. Now, my hormones can go crazy at times. I have a condition that is hormone based. So my skin will freak out on occasion, case in point. So my skincare, and especially when I'm going through a fat loss cycle, my hair care, making sure I'm getting in enough protein in my diet, those are top priorities for me. Skincare and hair care is extremely personal because everybody's got something different going on. So it is worth taking a little bit of time and maybe even a little bit of money to find what the best approach is for you at different stages of life. Because as we age, they'll change. The next is a consistent evening routine. And in this case, I do have some minimum tasks I shoot for. One is a connection port. And I'll talk about that more in a moment. Just know for now that it is something that brings me back to feeling like who I am. I'll do one thing for skincare, minimum. And then I'll do the normal before bed things like brushing my teeth and brushing my hair. And I will also count my wins. Now, these are points across the day where I felt pretty cool about something, or something went well for me. So those are my base minimums for my evening routine ahead of going to bed. One connection port, one skincare, normal before bed things, count wins. And if I've planned out enough time for it, then I'll focus on things that will actively improve sleep quality and quantity, such as focusing on an end time for having screens on, um, journaling with expansion on my wins and what I want to experience tomorrow. I might also read for enjoyment. Certainly I'm going to work on dimming lights as well. The next of my non-negotiables is eating whole foods and drinking lots of water. Now, not everything that you eat or drink needs to be a whole food, but a whole foods focus generally increases your fiber, water, and nutrient intake. So we can't actually argue against a whole foods approach. And yes, there are a lot of foods that go through at least minimal processing as well. And that's fine, as it's fine too. there are things that I'm focusing more on now, like being aware of how much of the food that I get is in packaging. And by that I mean in plastics, especially. The condition that I have causes higher estrogen production. And one of the things that's been coming out more and more in research is the role of plastics in high estrogen production. So altering of the way in which our bodies work with hormone production. So that's something I've been doing more reading on. I've been raising my own awareness about and ultimately working towards a better and better relationship with plastic. Also, when it comes to the drinking water side of this, many times when I'm simply feeling off, a glass of water actually kind of helps wake me back up. The next non-negotiable here for me is protecting my energy and diving into a connection port. So of course, I mentioned just a moment ago that connection ports make you feel more like you. You can also think of them as something that grounds you. You know, it could be movement oriented, it could be getting outside, it could be a bubble bath or shower and doing base self-care activities. It could be reading or writing, could be catching up with a friend or a family member. There are a ton of different things that could serve as connection ports. Ultimately, though, you need to be aware of whether you are using something as an escape to not deal with your mental, emotional, or physical well-being, or spiritual or other aspects of well-being. But a connection port makes you feel more like you. And this is all about protecting your energy, being more self-aware of what kinds of things drain you and what kinds of things lift you up. The next one is a big one, of course, and that's sleep. Minimum goal of 7 to 8 hours. Now, do I get that all the time? No, absolutely not. But it is that the amount of sleep that's necessary to get us into deep sleep for 1.5 to 2 hours. And that's generally thought of as the amount of deep sleep needed to promote better overall well-being. There are different things that negatively impact our sleep, and that this could be sleep quantity or quality or both. Those things include age. As we age, generally those things are worse for us. This is based off of hormonal um, activity. It's based off of um, essentially our neural activity as well. Our diet can influence this, whether we are ingesting caffeine or alcohol, particularly close to bedtime. Those things can directly interfere with our sleep. If we exercise too close to bedtime, for many people, exercise wakes us up, and some of that is the acute effect of our um, our hormone and neurotransmitter activity because exercise produces a bit of adrenaline and norepinephrine. Exercise produces a bit of cortisol. Those things impact our ability to fall asleep. So if we are exercising too close to bedtime, then we might have trouble sleeping. So what would be ideal then? Finish up at least 2 hours ahead of when you'll go to bed. Stress can negatively impact our sleep. Exposure to light in the evening could prompt our circadian rhythm to advance to a phase of later sleeping. There are also things that are going to positively impact our ability to sleep and sleep well, and that's maintaining a set sleep schedule. Now, I know that, especially new parents, but also, also shift workers might have a challenge with maintaining a set sleep schedule, particularly like parents of very young kids, in their first 5 years, I'm sure. I think it's up to 5 years, yeah. Um, and then shift workers who aren't on a consistent shift. It's hard to maintain a set sleep schedule when those things are going on. Avoiding naps during the day can also help because we're not impacting our circadian rhythm that way. Exposure to morning sun. So this is our flip-flop from the evening light. Light in the morning can help our circadian rhythm phase two earlier sleep. Physical activity during the day. It's been well documented that routine exercise and movement can improve sleep quality and quantity. Relaxing at night to include limiting our exposure to light. Definitely a way that positively impacts our sleep. Listening to binaural beats. There are different ranges of binaural beats, and they can positively affect deep sleep state or REM state, and they can impact relaxation and anxiety experiences. So it's worth taking a look at that to help promote better sleep, better relaxation at night. Another non-negotiable for me, and this is a heavy one. Eliminate your limits. This is big because it's a conversation with yourself about what's important to you, why it is, and what gets in your way and how to fix that. So there are some different tools, I guess is going to be the best word here, for how you might do this. You could journal, and in journaling, talk about what's getting in the way of what you want, and what of that is self-sabotaging behavior. Put in some work to define what matters most to you. This might mean taking a look at your core values specifically, which are essentially the experiences that matter to you. An example I've used before with clients is that family isn't a core value. Family is important to us, and our core value related to family might be joy or happiness, or something else that you facilitate and generate, not so directly influenced by other people. We also, within journaling, can give ourselves space to plan out what we'll do today in order to focus on what matters most. We can work through a mindset shift. And with this, we can practice imagining what we want to see happen for us, what we want to feel and experience. And if nothing else, this is one reason why counting my wins every day helps. Because when you count your wins, you're giving yourself the perspective of having found even the smallest thing that went right or felt right for you. And I encourage you to count as many wins across the day as you can. Now you can write about all these things at night. Certainly. I've found for me that writing them down as they happen helps me best because that actually I'm tired enough at night where I don't want to work my brain across the day that I just had. What I'd rather do is reflect back on the day through having the prompt of a win in front of me. We can write down our goals and keep them visible or create a reminder to review them. That's another tool that we can use. We can meditate. And this is a space where we can focus on gratitude or even further our imagination work. Imagining what it is that we want and what it'll look like and feel like. This is not from a perspective of self-competition or getting down on ourselves for something. This is us giving ourselves permission to build ourselves up. Another tool that can help with eliminating your limits is learning new things. Understanding that when we're learning a new thing, it might mean a new skill because journaling is a skill. And a lot of people feel like journaling might not be for them because it's not a skill that they are practicing much. When we practice something, we get better at it. Now, there's something to be said, of course, for innate skill with certain things and having those skills be transferable to other areas. But learning a new thing can provide us with a little bit of challenge as well as fun. And if it's different than things we typically do, I think that's a very, very good way of practicing things like patience and self-awareness. Another way that we can work to eliminate our limits is to identify and fix our bad habits. And this might mean that we need to develop some self-awareness and take a good hard look in the mirror. We may need to heal our stories, the things that we're telling ourselves about ourselves or our situation that are true simply because we believe them. Now, here's the practice for how to do that, for how to heal our stories. We take a look at that negative thing we're feeling, thinking, or experiencing, and we search out the evidence for why it's not true. This can be something like me saying to myself, I have been overweight for years. I'm not sexy. My boyfriend deserves better. Why is this not true? Well, yes, I've been overweight, but I am focusing on my health and how it is that I want to improve it. And self-improvement on its own is sexy. My boyfriend also would not still be with me 6 years later if he did not find my presence worthwhile in his life. Because he actually does a routinely good job of removing toxic people from his life. Might take him a little bit of time, might take any of us a little bit of time, right? So I am personally not at least too toxic an individual in my boyfriend's life. Another way we can eliminate our limits is to practice self-love, and this might be through affirmations. Ultimately, it's going to come down to talking to ourselves more than we listen. So remember how I said we need to heal our stories, the things that we tell ourselves that are true just simply because we believe them? Talking to yourself more than you listen to yourself is that practice of healing our stories. It is giving ourselves a different story to believe in. Again, I am working on self-improvement, which is a journey, and that's sexy. And my last non-negotiable, and this covers the gamut of the concept, do something in each of these areas, is to take it day by day, doing the next right thing for me. And ultimately, here is where we can create a list of action steps, what needs to happen so that we can take the next step forward. And you can think of this as your to-do list, but it's related very specifically to your goals. So here is the workshop aspect. Get out your pen and paper. You're going to be answering for yourself these questions. And I'll make sure you get a copy of this PDF so that you've got the ability to just peek back at this as well. You don't necessarily have to try to copy down each of these questions right now, but here are the questions that we need to ask ourselves about, my list of non-negotiables. You also may want to go ahead and create your own non-negotiable list. So what are your minimums and what are your ideals for your morning routine? What different roles do you play throughout the day, and how can you dress for success with respect to those roles? I'm a girlfriend, I'm an exercise physiologist, I'm a coach, I'm a business owner, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a cat owner. There are probably a handful of others as well. So, how can I dress for success? This might not be the actual clothing issue, but it may very well pertain to how you are approaching each of these roles. What do you want to do for daily physical activity? For exercise a few days a week? What would your investments look like for your skincare and hair care routine? What are your minimums and ideals for your evening routine? What do you want to focus on with nutrition? And what are some small steps that you can take? That's actually a very good question to ask for most of these things, by the way. What are some small steps you can take? Because a small step, again, is a win. And if we're counting our wins and we're going and we're collecting those and we're reflecting back on them, that prompts and pushes us to keep doing it, right? How can you protect your energy? And here's a good place to go ahead and also list things that would serve as connection ports for you. Again, I enjoy a bubble bath. Um, I also enjoy, because this is not something to do every day, but I enjoy giving myself a scalp massage while I'm washing my hair. I enjoy getting outside on a sunny day or first thing in the morning, even. I enjoy a good walk. I enjoy reading. So I absolutely enjoy, catching up with a friend. So list for you what things serve as connection ports. And again, these aren't things that you use to escape from anything that is worth dealing with on the emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, anything level. This is something that helps you ground yourself Maybe it allows you to go back out and deal with whatever the situation is. What do you do that impacts your sleep for good or for bad? Make a list of small changes you would want to make to help improve on your sleep quantity or quality. What gets in your way? What matters most to you? And what is one thing you can do to move forward even 1%? We don't have to make leaps and bounds here on purpose. And again, across a 30-day period, you might be surprised by how things have improved for you with consistent effort. And the action steps. List what needs to happen so you can take the next step forward with things, taking it day by day. So that might mean you open your planner and get a schedule down on paper. It might mean getting out a shopping list and circling the items that you need to pick up for you or your family for some healthy meals this week. It might mean you set a timer like I do on getting up and moving around. It might mean that you have an alarm set for the evening so that you can start winding down. It might mean that you go through your closet and get rid of anything that you haven't worn in a while. It might mean filling up your water glass one more time. So again, the action steps aren't necessarily a to-do list, but they are very especially a to-do list that pertains to your specific goals. And that may very well mean taking a look at what your non-negotiables are, imagining something small that you can accomplish in every single one of those, or as many as possible across a given time frame. I always like setting a timer and seeing if I can beat it on certain things. So that might mean like the chores, because the chores need to be done in order to create the environment that I want around me. Another example of that one would simply be I do a desk reset as much as I can in the evening ahead of going to bed. That way, my desk is set for the day ahead. I'll make sure I have what I need out for the next day. It's also a very good way of making sure that you aren't talking yourself out of getting in a workout if you want to do a workout. Have your workout clothes visible. There are a lot of different types of action steps that can be used here to advance your goals. Guys, thank you very much for joining me on this workshop. I will see you in the next one.